attempt to get whatever was illegally obtained seized. We're not going to sit here and pretend that every bit of money you've made was legal when you've been caught selling weed before, and you're also in possession of a large quantity of weed today. All right? Like, I'm not stupid. You're not stupid. Like, 1 + 1 = 2 in an overwhelming majority of situations, at least. But I want you to use this as an opportunity to turn your life around. Now, whether or not you do is beyond my control. I say this all the time. You can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. 9 times out of 10, when I'm explaining stuff like this to people directly in front of me, they'll lie to my face, and the moment they're out, they're doing exactly what they promised to never do again. It is what it is. It's the reality of the situation. I mean, if you go down that route, that's entirely your choice. I'm just telling you, best course of action here is to avoid dealing with whatever it is you're doing now, because it's no bueno. It's not good.
Right.
Now, that being said, given the circumstances, I am just going to leave it at the current list of charges, which, as stated before, reckless evading, resisting, possession of explosives, possession or felony possession with intent to distribute, evidence tampering, operating motor vehicle without proper identification, possession of drug paraphernalia, and criminal possession of firearm class 1. Are there any points of contention regarding any of these charges? Ooh, Max, I can't hear you if you're saying something.
1 second.
No, you're good.
You're talking faster than I can write down. Reckless resisting, criminal possession 1.
Reckless evading, resisting arrest, possession of explosives, felony possession with intent to distribute, evidence tampering, operating a motor vehicle without proper identification, possession of drug paraphernalia, and criminal possession of a firearm class 1.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So because you requested an attorney, the way the deals can essentially be structured at officer discretion is we can provide up to 50% off time in exchange for a guilty plea. Additionally, we can also take off time for time you've been in custody over a certain point. So if you were to plead guilty, I'd be willing to drop the 157 months down to, give me a second, 78. It's 59. I'd be willing to drop it down in exchange for a guilty plea to 50 months. If you don't plead guilty, I will still be willing to take into account the time you have been in custody, but that would be a reduction from 157 down to pretty much 130. So the choice is yours. You can plead not guilty. It'll be 130 months. If you were to plead guilty, it would be 50. I didn't catch that. Sorry.
Guilty.
All right. Give me 1 second here. All right. And Jeremy, just to verify, you understand the consequences of being caught with weed again, right? Like, I can't understate the importance of getting out of whatever game you're in, because I've seen drug trafficking cases go for millions of dollars in fines, which means the state would seize whatever property you have, whether that be vehicles, house, whatever, because the state won't hesitate just providing you with an apartment, which is a constitutional right. So just keep that in mind. And I say this considering you very likely knew what you had on your person. You had a firearm. You could have turned around. You could have shot, especially given what you had in your vehicle, and you didn't. So I mean, you're not exactly in the best of scenarios, but it could have been considerably worse. You could have made it considerably worse and opted not to. So I do appreciate that. I do appreciate you valuing, the life of everyone involved, as opposed to, doing what a lot of others would do, which is trying to shoot their way out of it. So I'm trying to reward that the best I can.
So just for my reference.
Yep, go ahead.
Right. I sell a lot of materials, right?
Yep.
And a lot of people give me cash for materials.
Mm-hmm.
How would the state differentiate a transaction and deposit made in cash for materials versus one made with hypothetically, drugs?
Okay, so I'm not necessarily going to go into the specifics, but I will tell you, it is not difficult to determine, essentially how many materials someone can reasonably obtain in a set amount of time. Right? You said it before. You get a paycheck from doing sanitation. Based on that, we can gauge hours worked, for example. And then compare that to how many materials someone would obtain in a reasonable amount of time, probably sort of on the higher end, and then compare that to money you actually have coming in, which would very likely be vastly different, especially in money-related deposits.
I say that because what I said was true. Like most of my stuff I get from sanitation, so that's reassuring.
If you are genuinely obtaining it, through legitimate means, obviously just make sure you're documenting it. Just don't expect following the route that I'm sure many others do, where anytime they get transferred money for illegal funds or deposit cash, and it's always 4 letters, mats or materials. Listen, it's similar to when people used to tell us, when asking them, where'd you find this gun? And they go, oh, the dumpster at the Pink Cage. You know how many times we've heard that? Oh. Oh, are you all right?
Need food?
I've been in custody so long, my blood sugar is low.
Oh. Are you thirsty or are you hungry?
A little bit of both.
All right. Sit tight. Sit tight.
I feel like.
Well, all right. Just a moment. Unfortunately, there's no EMS available, but listen, I am a diabetic. All right. If your blood sugar is low, I'll get you something. Just a moment. Hi, Martha.
Hello, is this where the food is, Di?
Apparently, yeah, and I'm stealing
Why?
some considering.
Why don't you put it in the meeting room or something? Why is it on the floor?
I don't know. Probably so that people know it's here.
Right, okay,
No one is
then.
running into the meeting room outside of the actual meeting time, but my suspect just passed out from low blood sugar, so I'm gonna go feed him now.
Oh
Don't mind
dear.
me.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't actually make a lot of money. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, I have some food. I'm gonna place it on the table here. Or you think you're gonna be able to stand?
Yeah. Just give me one.
All right.
Moment.
Here we are. I am gonna make a request here, that being, you consume everything I'm giving you, primarily because if you don't, we do run the risk of certain possessions that were seized not being returned to you.
Don't want that.
Exactly. So drink up, eat up, make sure you feel better. And beyond that, just to make sure we're all on the same page, you are pleading guilty. It'll be dropped down to 50 months. Will be the full fine. Fine is not negotiable, unfortunately, unless there's a reduction or drop in charges. Anyone have any questions?
No, that's good.
All right, Max, or am I good to bill him? Is everything good?
Everything good.
All right. Gonna get you billed here in the amount of $81,714. There we are. And it's gonna be 50 months. Jeremy, do you have any last comments, questions, concerns?
No, this is fun, right?
I mean, you could say that. You could say that. Please don't smoke and drive ever again. Okay, you were off. Your tires were off the road, or any terrain for that matter, more than it was on terrain.
Yeah, I tend to do that.
You should refrain from doing so. Because you should be getting a DUI or DWI. I don't know exactly how it's charged in the MDT. But again, considering you opted not to go down the violent route, thankfully, I'm not going to push everything I can here. I've done a decent amount. Don't get me wrong, but you know, you got to pick and choose battles here. All right, Jeremy, I'm going to reach out to DOC, get you sent off. And you have a wonderful day. I hope you turn your life around.
Okay. You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right,
DOC
have
from
any
PD?
questions? Contact me in Lemonist.
Okay.
Be advised, you have one Jeremy. How do you pronounce your last name? Is it Saiga?
Saiga.
Jeremy Saiga being sent up for 50 months. All right, they're ready for you. Stay safe out there.
You too.
Thanks for trusting me.
Do either of you need to give each other contact information or anything, or is everyone good?
I'm good. I see
All right.
the one on the list.
If that's the case, I'm getting you sent off. Have a good one.
Yeah, as well.
All right. Here we are. Ignore the person in the cell.
Yeah.
They get
God.
very emotional sometimes when they find out that they're all alone again. And no one's here. I do appreciate you coming up here.
Thank you for calling me.
Not a problem. We are. Just don't forget
I
to
did a
grab
big
your wrench at the
mistake.
front.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Thing is, the moment I heard firearms, I looked up which class it belongs to. And so I looked at, is it class 1, class 2, class 3? So I assume it would be automatically a class 3.
No, it's opposite. It's kind of funny that you mentioned that because it works opposite of most other things. For example, third-degree speeding is the least severe, but a class 1 weapon is the least severe.
Yeah, no, but because the way I looked it up, with firearms, I did not get to the possession of explosive charge, which would apply here. So I assumed you would be able to basically charge him with a $1 million fine.
So you're not wrong. Strangely enough, we actually have a decent amount of overlap in a good portion of charges. Oh, geez, there's a lot of stuff going on. A decent amount of overlap in quite a few charges. That being one of them. I've actually had this discussion with the marshal in the past. Listen, I'm gonna be real. If your client was a complete prick, I would likely find that as an opportunity to be like, you know what? Let's test the fucking waters. let's figure out which one they're gonna rule on. But again,
Murder was trash today.
Yeah, that was kind of what I told him. I looked through the charts and I was like, "Hey, you can get $1 million here. If he doesn't charge you with that, you should play ball instead of trying to figure out how much you can press."
You're definitely not wrong. It's I hate it. I'm gonna be so fucking for real. I fucking hate it. Wait. And I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed, Max. You have a wonderful day. You got that report number, right? Because I was told that y'all get paid based on... Okay, perfect. All right. Yep. And just remember, it's an incident, not a report. I don't know if they require clarification on that, but we have numbers that are... they're not sequential for incidents and reports. So there can be a incident number 10,000 and a report number 10,000. So you always want to make sure that's clarified. If we're processing someone, it's an incident. If it's just a report from like a victim statement and we didn't catch anyone, typically it just goes in as a report.
Good to know.
All right. Well, Max, you have a wonderful day. And again, I appreciate you swinging by. Yeah, what's up?
Didn't you already have his DNA on file?
Okay, so yes, but no, oddly enough. So on somebody's profile, we have a section to put in someone's DNA. Unfortunately, it was not filled in primarily because when he was charged for that criminal transaction, it was charged under the wrong profile. I think his state ID is 16818, and it was charged under 16181. So they reversed the last three. But on there, it does in fact show his not the actual DNA, but in the report associated with that state ID, it shows the DNA that was on the baggies, and that was a match to the DNA on the firearm. I'm going to be completely real. If he had said, "No, that's not my gun," I knew 100% I could prove it, and I knew he was not going to be operating in good faith. And at that point, I would have absolutely pushed everything I possibly could have.
Yeah, I told him.
So it's good. It's good that he complied.
Not admit what he wanted to.
Yeah. But yeah, you have.
Yeah, so what are the rules on this? Fingerprints and DNA can be taken.
So fingerprints and DNA are different. To be clear, anybody can be fingerprinted in custody, and that's for the sake of just identifying them. If you have a identification card, your fingerprints are on file. When we are looking at, let's say somebody was in possession of a firearm or baggies of marijuana, and they go and stash it, and we retrieve it. We're looking for DNA. We're not actually looking for fingerprints. So that's like a very clear indicator of your DNA can be on something. You could be wearing gloves, right? But when you were putting those gloves on, you were touching it. So it's not necessarily your fingerprint. It's just your DNA, stuff like that. But yeah, when we get somebody in custody, we almost always fingerprint them just for the sake of identifying who they are. Because if we don't, let's say in the hostage situation from earlier, they stole your ID and you didn't have a profile. And they go and do something stupid and they claim to be Max and they flash the ID. Suddenly you're going to have a criminal record, despite the fact that you never did anything wrong. Someone else is just claiming to be you. And so that's how we identify people.
Okay. But if someone would just be like found a firearm with my fingerprints on it, that wouldn't be enough to... would need to be my DNA.
Okay, so that comes down to situational stuff. If I didn't have that additional information, I very likely would have filed for a search warrant or subpoena, whichever one's more appropriate. They're sort of interchangeable at times. Regarding his DNA, because he was in possession of the magazines that fit that firearm, he was in proximity to that firearm. It wasn't far from where his vehicle had flipped over and stuff like that. And he did admit that he did have a firearm on his possession, right? So everything leads to it being him. The DNA on the firearm was fresh. We retrieve all that information when running DNA. So that very likely would have been approved by a judge specific to this incident. However, we typically only get DNA on somebody's record or profile if they were involved in a violent felony. So if they were involved in a Paleto Bank robbery where they had somebody at gunpoint, stuff like that. That's typically when we collect DNA, but there can be one-off scenarios like what would have happened today if he hadn't complied, or if I didn't have that additional information to confirm, then we would be able to file for that to pretty much require him legally to submit to a DNA test. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, I believe I just got DNA and fingerprints makes sense that you are able to identify everyone.
Yep. All right. Well, right. Max, you have a wonderful day. You stay safe.
You too.
Have a good one.
Calling me. Have a safe day, officer.
I hate when this lock's open. Chat, I do have to dip. Hold on. I have my doctor's appointment. Though it's in the afternoon, I have to get ready, and it's also in Boston. I'm going to not fuck this up. Not the fucking moonshine stuff. I'm gonna write the statement later, but I'm gonna get this stuff documented for now. Evidence. Let me do this. 81H. Keep it simple. Save. Evidence. Photo. Share X. Fingerprint. Weed. All right, 11771. Fired ID. Grenade. Hopefully this adds the firearm into evidence. ... Making a to-do list. One moment. To do. Or didn't 1771. Fill out report. Document connection from prior to current profile. Sure, firearm is documented properly. What else? We put the wrong one. All right, we're good. 290.42. All right, chat. I have to dip. Thank you all so much for all love support. I appreciate it. Thank you all for the follows, hosts, raids, bits, donations, subs, gift subs, resubs. I say this each and every time. I genuinely cannot have asked for a community to be built around this channel. So thank you all for being absolutely amazing. If y'all haven't already, follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Curvyelephant. Join our Discord, discord.gg/Curvyelephant. And if you enjoyed what you saw today, drop me a follow on Twitch. I'd appreciate that as well. I'm getting y'all sent off to Oz. I don't know how much longer he's going to be on Davenport. But again, I have to dip. So y'all have a good one. And I will be live.